Let's pull this up. All right, this was posted on WWE.com May 22nd, 2016, so just over 3 years ago. WWE has come to the terms on the release of Cody Rhodes as of Sunday, May 22nd, 2016. WWE wishes Rhodes the best in all his future endeavors. I'd say that Cody Rhodes' future endeavors have turned out quite well. Now, before I talk about AEW's first major pay-per-view event, Double or Nothing, I want to take this time to put over Cody Rhodes once again, because this is a guy who I sang the praises of constantly when he was in the WWE, and I thought, there's a guy who gives 145% into everything that you give him, whether it's good or bad. He will just dive headfirst into it and give it his all. Like, Stardust is the prime example of that, where most people remember that as a bad gimmick, but I don't think anybody questions Cody's effort of trying to get the gimmick over. Cody, and I could look at his entire career and point out things where it's like, look, this guy, he's really friggin' good, and if you give him the right material and the right push, he could be something big for you. And apparently, WWE never saw him as anything more than what they ultimately did with him, and Cody asked for his release and decided to bet on himself, and I'd say so far, so good. Now, I watched Double or Nothing last night, had a few friends over, had a nice viewing party for it, and I gotta be honest, you go into the show hoping for the best and hoping that it goes well, hoping that this new company gets off to a really good start. I thought they had the pay-per-view of the year. Personal, that's just my take on the situation. The sheer enjoyment that I got out of the show, from the surprises to the matches, one match in particular, I'll get into that later. The emotion and the entertainment and the excitement and everything, the atmosphere was great. The crowd was outstanding all night long. The whole thing was just a wonderful viewing experience from start to finish, and I thoroughly enjoyed that pay-per-view. Pretty much the entire thing. And I've talked about like shows being too long these days, WrestleMania being the prime example. Even shows I liked, like Ring of Honor, New Japan at Madison Square Garden. I really enjoyed that show, but it was a little too long. This show, counting the pre-show, went close to 5 hours. I didn't feel it at all. Time whizzed by. Like, we were just having a ball the entire time watching it. And just a delightful pay-per-view viewing experience as a wrestling fan and as somebody who's just been starved for exciting wrestling. I thought AEW delivered on this show, and hopefully it's the sign that they're going to keep on delivering in the near future as they head towards their eventual debut on television on TNT. Should be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. But with all of that said, let me get into the actual card itself. Starting with the pre-show, I guess we could start off with that. We had the 21-man Casino Battle Royale with the winner getting a spot in the first ever AEW World Championship match. The winner of the Battle Royal facing the winner of the main event later in the show. The Battle Royal, at first, I was a little worried because the rules, they kind of blew past the rules really quickly, and I was like, that was a little confusing. I don't know if this thing sounds like it's going to be a mess. Fortunately, once the match was in progress and they started showcasing certain guys, because that's really what this match was. It was an excuse to showcase a bunch of guys that maybe we hadn't seen before, guys that maybe the audience isn't familiar with, and see if they could get over with the crowd. And some of them worked really well. I think, and I'll have more to say about MJF, but I think that dude is money. I like that dude a lot. Total natural on the mic and really presents and carries himself really, really well. The list of participants is as follows. We have Sonny Kiss, Exolicious from Lucha Underground, for those of you Lucha Underground fans out there. Brandon Cutler, Ace Romero, who my friend really liked, because as my friend says, I love fat fuck wrestlers. And AC Baby seemed to make an impression. Glacier was there, which, was fun for the nostalgia pop. Never expected to see Glacier in a pay-per-view on 2019, but, for battle royals and things like this, it's fine. Brian Pillman Jr., who I'd never seen before, has a great look. I was like, oh, that guy looks like a star, right? He stands out instantly. just looking, he looks like Ricky Morton. I was like, oh, they might have something there with that guy. And again, just based on his appearance, I don't know. A battle royal is hard to gauge someone's true talent, but he caught my eye really quickly just based on his look. So he's got the look. We'll see once we start having regular like one-on-one matches and things like that. We'll see what his skill level is really like. But his look really impressed me, if nothing else. Sunny Days, who looked like a homeless Goldust. Joey Janela, who took a sick table bump in there. It's like, man, he really sold that one well. Dustin Thomas, was he the no-leg guy? Yeah, he hit a couple spots. The no-leg 619, that was kind of neat. Billy Gunn was in there. Again, another nostalgia guy. Jimmy Havoc was in there. Michael Nakazawa, who seemed to get over pretty well with the crowd. Jungle Boy. This is the first time I ever seen Jungle Boy, so it was good to see him. Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Luchasaurus, who I'm a big fan of, going back to Lucha Underground, so it was nice to see him get a big spot. Sean Spears, former Ty Dillinger, it was nice to see him get a spot and actually get used moderately well. And that's another thing, you know, the guys that WWE's misused over the years, I'm not saying that Ty Dillinger is like main event level guy and they passed up on a main event level talent, but the dude got over in NXT, did well in NXT, gets to the main roster, they do nothing with him. Absolutely nothing. And it's like, well, why'd you even bring him up to the main roster? What was the point? And I don't know. Like, that was one of the most confusing NXT call-ups ever, because it's like, if you're not going to do anything with him, why did you even bother calling him up? I don't understand that at all. Orange Cassidy, Marco Stunt, Tommy Dreamer, another nostalgia pick, and the eventual winner of the match, Hangman Adam Page. I guess this was a consolation prize for the match with Pac getting canceled, but I thought the Battle Royal was fun. Like I said, the rule structure was a little confusing at first, but once I started seeing the Battle Royal play out, I thought I thought it flowed pretty well. It was just a good, fun showcase for a bunch of different talents. Hangman getting the win was no surprise. Looking at that list of participants, I was like, it has to be Hangman, right? And I think some people were maybe expecting a big surprise like Jon Moxley or CM Punk or somebody of that level to show up in this match, but when I saw it was on the pre-show, I'm like, nah, it's not going to be anybody like that. And when I saw Hangman Page come out, I'm like, yep, Hangman's probably going to win the thing, because looking at that list, I just didn't see anybody else winning it. So, good for Hangman. I thought MJF was a huge star in that thing and looked great. I'll have more to say later in the show, obviously. But MJF looked like a star, and a bunch of these guys had little moments that was like, oh, we'll see how he turns out, because he looks interesting. So, Battle Royal was fun. That's really all there is to say. Then we had Kip Sabian versus Sammy Guevara, which is it was a pre-show match. It was a good pre-show match. It was a good, solid showcase for two athletic guys that I'd seen very little of. They went out there, did the best they could, had a nice, solid match to fill out the pre-show, and that's it. Kip Sabian got the win, and it was just a nice, solid pre-show match. That's really all there is to say. Both guys look good in the process. It's not a particularly memorable match, but again, it's a pre-show match, and for that, I thought, all right, give the guys experience, and again, showcase them, see what they can do. They had a nice, solid bout, so no complaints here from me. And it was here that we kind of got like a production gaffe, where Cody, the Bucks, and Omega came out, and Brandy as well, and they came out and welcomed everybody to the show, which made sense, and it was good to see. But then they kind of got cut off and faded to black just as it hit 8 o'clock. So I think maybe they ran a little long. Maybe the matches ran a little too long. And they didn't get to finish their promo. But it was very awkward that they faded to black. And then we got the start of the pay-per-view. And then we got the national anthem. Which all of that was fine. But that was kind of a weird production gaffe. It would have been nice if they got to finish what they were saying as they were fading to black. I think that would have been timed better. So maybe they'll work out those kinks and get those production, because there were nothing terrible as far as production gaffes go. I think that the one I just pointed out was the worst one of the night. There were a couple where maybe they missed a spot or didn't get the right camera angle right away like they should have. But overall, I thought production of the night was very good. The stage looked good. It was nice to see pyro on a wrestling show. And overall, it was fairly well produced. And but there were a couple like little things that, all right, you should have gotten that angle instead of that one. You should have gotten a shot of that before earlier than you did, and little tiny things like that. Nothing overly noticeable, and things that they can work out once they've all gotten like all their ducks in a row and gotten everything figured out. So I guess from there we can go into the main show, and we'll talk about the commentary team, which included Jim Ross and Excalibur, which have I ever heard him call a show before? I'm not sure. Anyway, I thought the 3-man team was fine for the most part. It was certainly less annoying than the typical WWE commentary team, with Vince yelling in their ears and telling them to say stupid shit and shill for the company the entire time. I thought they did mostly well. JR I've been kind of critical of lately. I think he sounds old and tired, but here I think bouncing off of 2 other guys and letting them kind of carry the load a little bit, I thought JR came across better. I thought he did really well during the Cody Dustin match, which again, we'll get there when we get there, but I thought the commentary team overall sounded good. I thought Excalibur did really well. I really liked him at the booth. So overall, the commentary was nice, production was nice, the show looked nice. It was a big time feel. Crowd was great. So a lot of those like non-wrestling components I thought worked really well for the most part. So with that, let's get into the actual card. We started off with the 6-man tag, SoCal Uncensored versus the Strong Hearts. Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky versus Sema, T-Hawk, and El Lindemann. This was a good match. It was nice to see SCU again because I haven't seen him in a while since they left Ring of Honor. So it was really cool to get to see them open up the show. This was an ideal opener. It was just a nice, action-packed match. Shows off the tag division. Shows off some new guys that maybe you hadn't heard of. Gave us SCU again, which again, I hadn't seen them in months, so it was good to see them back. And just a really good, solid, athletic match with great tag team action. It was also here that they said that the new tag team rule that they were instating was that partners could get into the ring and they would have a 10 count to get out rather than 5. So it kind of fixes some of the issues of recent tag matches where there's too much double teaming and they're just in the ring forever and nobody gets disqualified. So that curbs it at least a little bit, makes it a little bit more palatable for me. So it's like, all right, they've got 10 seconds they've got till a count of 10 rather than 5. So, all right, that makes it a little bit better. It gives them a little bit more leeway. I imagine they're going to start making a bigger deal out of that rule in the near future. But yeah, I thought the match was good. SCU won, which didn't surprise me. I figured they're the most well-known. Might as well give them the win in the big pay-per-view match. And it was a good, solid opener. Not too big that it overshadowed the rest of the card, but didn't make you feel like the show peaked in the first match, but a nice, hot way to open up the show, so I was cool with this. Then we got the women's match, Britt Baker versus Nyla Rose versus Kylie Ray, and the new addition, the first big surprise of the night, Awesome Kong, to make it a fatal 4-way. So changing it from a triple threat to a fatal 4-way. The match was fine. I thought it was a nice, solid bout. Britt Baker looked good, and she ultimately got the win, which I thought was the right call because I thought she was kind of the best-looking one of the bunch. Kong was kind of just there to get a pop, and I don't know if she's going to be there like full-time moving forward, but it felt like she was just there to kind of hit some spots and get the crowd invested in the match and give them something a little bit of extra flavor. I'd heard a few years ago that she had suffered like some back issues, so she's not like the worker she used to be. So using her in this capacity, I thought was fine. Britt Baker, like I said, she was the best one of the bunch. Kylie Ray, immediately, this is the first time I've ever seen her. Immediately, I just looked at her and went, Dime Store Bailey? Is that kind of what they're going for here? Like, kind of because immediately you look at her and the way she acts, it's like, all right, she's Bailey. She's their version of Bailey, and that's what they're doing. And it didn't really win me over because it feels like a lesser version of Bailey, and I'm not really fully into that. And also, I have to say, she cut a promo on the pre-show where she was interrupted by the 2 people fighting over the librarian gimmick. And again, I'm all for comedy and wrestling, I'm all for characters, but that's the one thing that they're doing. You know, I was like, I'm not really feeling the librarian gimmick. It doesn't really work for me, but whatever. We'll see. I guess we'll see more of it when it goes to TV, and maybe they can iron it out and make it work. I don't know. But There's also Nyla Rose, who's actually a transgender wrestler, male to female. I didn't actually know that going in. I'd never seen this person before, never seen this performer before. I guess she fills the role of being like their, I mentioned Dime Store Bailey. I guess she kind of fits the role of being kind of their Dime Store Nia Jax. Although many would say that Nia Jax is a Dime Store Nia Jax, but as long as Nyla doesn't hurt anybody, I think it'll be okay. But it was all right. You got a brute in the division. That's fine, I guess. She didn't necessarily do anything that impressed me. Like I said, Britt Baker really came out of this looking like the star of the non-Kong participants, and Kong, of course, was like the one that added a bunch of flavor to make the match interesting. And it was a good, solid match. No complaints about it other than maybe Dime Store Bailey, my biggest one. But maybe she can evolve into something moving forward. I would go, because just to kind of curb those comparisons to Bailey, I would go and make her like a creepy character. Maybe less like Bailey, more like Mickie James circa 2006 when she was stalking Trish Stratus, like that type of character. But again, we'll see what happens when the show goes to TV and more shows are held and what they ultimately do with her. We also got Allie on commentary, so Allie's going to be a part of the women's division here on AEW. She looked great, by the way. That dress was spot on. So yeah, I mean, this was really just an excuse to showcase their women's division and get that off to a good start. No titles were on the line. There was only one title match in the entire show, so it's like, wow, they put on a show this good, and they only had one title match the entire night. That's pretty amazing. But the four-way may have been my pick for weakest match on the show, but it wasn't bad by any means. I just kind of like, outside of Britt Baker, I wasn't necessarily like that impressed with anybody. But but again, there's room to grow, and the right person went over, so I'm not going to complain too much. Then we got a tag match, the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, taking on Angelico and Jack Evans. This was fun. I know all four guys fairly well. Big Lucha Underground fan, so Angelico and Jack Evans mean a lot to me. And Jack Evans has been around for a long time, and it never aged. Like, it's amazing. He still looks like he's 12 years old. He's a youngin'. But just a really nice athletic tag team match showcasing some really talented athletes. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. The Best Friends went over, and it was just a good solid tag match in the middle of the show. It's like, all right, cool. I'm good with that. Then we got the other women's match of the night: Hikaru Shida, Ryo Abe, and Ryo Mizunami versus Aja Kong's team. Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaka, am I saying that right? And Emi Sakura. Now, as you can guess by me butchering the pronunciations of their names, I have no idea who any of these women are, except for Aja Kong, who I remember watching from the Survivor Series in 1995, and thinking, oh my god, she's going to be like the female version of Vader. And then we never saw her on WWF television ever again. It's like, man, that's disappointing. And now she just kind of looks like somebody's grandma. I mean, she looks old, but, whatever. Again, the match was fine. They blew the spot. I don't know what happened with the bell ringing early. I'm not sure if that was actually planned or not. Did they put a dusty finish on the pay-per-view? I don't know. But it was awkward, whatever it was they were trying to go for. The non-Aja Kong team won. Nobody in this match really stood out to me that much. I mean, I got the gimmicks. All right, you had the Magic Girl gimmick. You had the one that was dressed like Freddie Mercury. You had the one that was... you had Aja Kong, and so, like, some of their outfits stood out, but nobody really stood out that much as an individual to me. But as a filler match, it was fine, except for what they did with the finish, whether that was a botch or not, I don't know. But a good solid match. Didn't really blow my socks off or anything, but as a filler, I thought it was fine for what it was. And now we get our three main events, our three, like, big main event matches, and to me, the matches that really put the show over the top. First up, we had Cody versus Dustin Rhodes. Brother versus brother, the Battle of Dusty Sons. First of all, I loved Cody's entrance, where he mocked Triple H, because it's like, this is the match, and it's not just the Rhodes Brothers. I mean, there were a few examples where I've said, these guys, these mid-carders, should get a WrestleMania match. I mean, they have the story. People are invested in the story. give them the WrestleMania match, but instead they insist on wasting their time on part-timers who aren't going to be there the next day and giving Triple H a half-hour-long entrance. So Cody coming out and destroying the Triple H throne with the sledgehammer, I'm like, yep, yeah, somebody's a little sour that he didn't get his WrestleMania match, but Triple H getting an absurdly long entrance that Triple H thinks is cool, nobody else thinks is cool. Yeah, I think Cody's like a little bitter about that, so he got to do that, and I was fine with it because I make fun of Triple H's entrances all the time. You also wonder, it's like, Cody heard what Triple H said at the Hall of Fame. It's like, all right, fucker, you want to talk shit about us? I'll fuck you over right back. And it's like, oh, shots fired. Yeah, I love that stuff. It's like they're just being shitty to each other. It's like we're one step away from having the Billionaire Ted skits again. Or what would the modern equivalent of that be? I don't even know. But anyway, going into the match itself. Match of the year. This is my pick for match of the year, and I would be hard-pressed to find a match that's going to top it. The sheer emotion that these two brothers were able to capture together, performing together and telling a story together, was off the charts, and easily the best thing on the show. Way better than anybody would have ever expected out of a 50-year-old Dustin Rhodes. And I always knew Dustin was a good worker, because I remember what he was like before Goldust. And I think people, when they think of Dustin, they think of just the Goldust character and him playing that character, which he played to the hilt, but they didn't often allow him to have really good matches as that character. They just wanted him to be the character, and that was it. That was something that Undertaker kind of had to shoulder the burden of in his early years, where it was like, yeah, we don't really want you to work matches. We just kind of want you to be the undead zombie. That's kind of all we want from you. And so you hardly ever got to see Undertaker's ability in his early years. And Dustin, you hardly ever got to see his ability while he was Goldust. His character work was off the charts. Like, he was amazing. But his actual, like, wrestling ability, you didn't get to see that much as Goldust. And I think most people, when they think of Dustin, they think of Goldust. So when you see a match like this, it's like, holy shit, where's this been for 20 some odd years? And Dustin looked like he was fighting like a young man in there. Some of the moves he hit in there were incredible. And the blade job he did, which legitimately, like, I don't want to say it was getting to... Okay, I don't want to say it was at Eddie JBL Judgment Day 04 levels, but it was closer than I ever expected to see another match get to. It was getting a little queasy. I was getting a little queasy. And some of us, at the viewing party I was at, we were all kind of like, all right, do they want to stop this? Is he okay? Like, it was getting a little scary with the blood, but the drama was off the charts, and the emotion was just perfect, and credit to Cody for working heel, because, oh my god, that made it so much better, and Dustin became the unanimous babyface throughout the course of the match, and of course Cody went over after this emotionally charged NWA-style, Crockett-style, old-school bloodbath. That was amazing. Probably the best performance of both men's careers. I mean, it was the match they clearly have always wanted to have, and they finally got to have it, and they stole the show, maybe stole the year. I thought this match was absolutely incredible, and my favorite match of 2019 so far, for sure. Just the sheer emotion of it, I just cannot be properly described. It is the best way. It's one of those matches I was like, guys, you need to go out and see this match, because that thing was incredible. And the real icing on the cake was the post-match where Cody announced that he was going to be having a tag match against the Bucks at the next show, next month. Fight for the Fallen or something like that. And Cody said, I'm allowed to pick my own partner. Now, I don't need a partner. I don't need a friend. I need my older brother, as his voice cracks and they're clearly crying, and both brothers hug in the ring and reunite, and now they're going to be tag team partners at the next show. Don't mean to embarrass myself here, but I can truthfully say, there were 3 of us in the room watching the pay-per-view. I was crying, my friend was crying, and my other friend was crying. We all had tears in our eyes. It was like, wow, that I was not expecting to feel that level of feelings for any of this. Cody was crying because he cracked up when he said, "I need my older brother," and it was like, oh my god, And you know what? I knew he was going to say it too, because when he said, "Now I don't need a partner," I was like, oh, don't say it. Don't say it. I'm going to cry if you say it. It's like, "I don't need a friend." I'm like, don't. And then he says, "I need my older brother." I was like, well, here come the waterworks. Here they come. Yep, crying like a bitch. Yep, that's me right now. And I asked my two other friends what they thought right after the match. It was like, all right, when was the last time a wrestling match made you cry? And the answers that we came up with were when Sting beat Hogan at Starrcade 97, because my friend was there to see Sting win the title, so it meant a lot to him. And Sting's his favorite wrestler, so it meant a lot to him to be there in person to see Sting win the belt. My other friend said Hogan Warrior at WrestleMania 6 when Warrior beat Hogan. And I said when Liz and Randy reunited at WrestleMania 7, so right after Savage Warrior. And I was like, man. So basically my point is, it's been a while since a wrestling match has made us cry. And that one just, I was not expecting that. And, by the time it was all said and done and they'd faded to black and they showed the announcers with tears in their eyes, Jim Ross had the line, it's like, "I'm not crying from allergies." And I think the Dream is smiling right now. And it's like, oh my god, this is just, you can tell that this all just meant so much to them. And all I could think of, and I hate to make this like a fuck WWE fest, I don't want to be that guy that just constantly shits on them, but when it was all said and done and the match was over and the post-match was over and we were moving on to the belt presentation, I was like, that's the match that wasn't good enough for WrestleMania. That was the match that wasn't good enough for WrestleMania. All right? But Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, that match was good enough for WrestleMania. Batista and Triple H, that match was good enough for WrestleMania. Fuck. Like, when I think of some of these shitty WrestleMania matches that we've had in just the last, 5 or 6, and it's like, those matches were okay, but sorry, Dustin. Sorry, Cody. We had multiple opportunities to give you guys a spot at WrestleMania, but we just wouldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Shouldn't do it. Was never going to deliver. Well, they just went out there and stole the fucking show and had one of the most emotional matches I think I've ever seen in the history of pro wrestling. One of my friends who was at the viewing party with honestly said, you can agree or disagree with him. I'm not going to, tell you how to feel about this. This was just his opinion. He said, dude, that is one of my top 3 favorite matches I've ever seen of all time. And it's like, well, hey, wasn't good enough for WrestleMania. That's all there is to say, but I'm glad that they got to have it here, and the two brothers got to have the match that they've always wanted to have, and wow, what a match. So from there, we got the belt presentation, where we got another surprise of the night, where the belt, the AEW World Championship, was presented by Bret the Hitman Hart. I'm like, how the fuck did they get Bret? So I'm like, shit. God damn, you guys, you're going all out. Oh, and I forgot to mention, DDP showed up to remove Brandy Rhodes from the Rhodes Brothers match, so that was another surprise, even though DDP had been at All In, so, God, it was just surprise after surprise after surprise, and they were using these guys effectively to kind of add color rather than outshine everybody, because Bret was really just window dressing to hold up the belt and present the belt, which was a nice-looking belt, by the way, but the real star of the segment was MJF, who is awesome on the mic. I'm like, where the fuck has this guy been? One of the most natural talkers I've seen in years. Like, oh my god, this guy's amazing. More of that guy, please, because they've got a huge big-time heel for the show, I think, right out of the gate. And he did awesome in this segment. He carried the whole thing and made it great. And, we even got to see the AEW World Title belt. They got to call it a belt, which that's nice. And it's a nice-looking belt, and we got a Bret Hart appearance, and we got to recover a little bit after, crying like babies after the Rhodes Brothers match. So, we're all good. I was completely okay with this segment, and I thought it came off well. It was a necessary buffer after the previous match, and also, a necessary step in AEW moving forward. It's like, all right, they've unveiled their belt. Now it's just, we got to have the match to determine the first champion. That's the next step. So, from there we got the AAA Tag Team Championship match, the Young Bucks defending against the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon and Phoenix. Now, this was a wild, crazy match. Like, some of the things they did to each other were insane. That one spot where it was like, they did something on, I think Pentagon did some kind of a pile driver or something on the apron, or a power bomb or something, and then Phoenix followed it up with like a Mexican destroyer inside the ring. And it was just some of the shit they did in this were incredible. It's like, when you think you haven't seen it all, or when you start to think you've seen it all, these four guys go out there and do things you've never seen before. It is really incredible that, like, how creative and innovative these four guys are. Now, if I'm going to knock it for anything, some of the kickouts at the end got a little ridiculous, where I was like, okay, guys, like, the last, like, 17 of these moves were finishers, I think, and it's just... But they kept going. It was this marathon, crazy action-packed tag team match. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I just thought some of the kickouts at the end were getting a little over the top and a little ridiculous and kind of taking away some of the impact of these amazing moves that they were hitting. But I was excited. I thought it was a very good tag team match. I just think in the future, it's like, try and scale back just a smidge. Just a smidge on that. But overall, an enjoyable tag match. And the Young Bucks went over. Oh, by the way, before I get into the main event, one more thing I forgot to mention about the Rhodes Brothers match. Did anybody else catch the ring announcer when he was introducing Cody? Because they can't call him Cody Rhodes, which I'm sure is another reason Cody is kind of butthurt about the WWE. But did anybody catch that where it was like, the American Nightmare, Cody, with Brandy Rhodes? And I was like, oh, you sneaky bitches. Why is Brandy allowed to call herself Brandy Rhodes, but Cody can't call himself Cody Rhodes? I don't get it. Like, it's fucking weird. But anyway, tag title match is very good. I really enjoyed it. Now let's go into the main event with the winner getting the second spot in the first ever AEW World Championship match. Alpha versus Omega 2, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. Thought the match was very good. Jericho's entrance was cool, where he basically went down his entire history before coming down to the ring and basically reliving all of his old gimmicks, like the light bright jacket and the list of Jericho and the countdown and all that other stuff. So that was fun. But the match itself was very good. I don't think it was as good as their first match at Wrestle Kingdom, but after that Rhodes match, I don't know if anything could have followed it. I thought this match was very good, and the effort was definitely there, and they did some crazy things with each other. Like, the stuff they did with the table was kind of, it was insane. Like, I was like, oh god, please don't get hurt. This is gonna get ugly. Jericho, dude can still go. I mean, I'm not gonna tell him he can't, at 48 years old, it's like, dude can still, he still got it. You can't knock him for that. And very good showcase for Omega. Now, Jericho actually got the win, which surprised me a little bit. And he won with his new finisher, the Judas Effect, which is like a spinning back elbow, which kind of caught me off guard at first. I wasn't kind of expecting the Judas Effect to be something like that. I think, and this is part of like the weird like disconnect that some fans have with like real fights. I remember when people were saying that when William Regal was using a running knee to the head was a weak finish. I'm like, guys, he's taking his knee and he's ramming it into somebody's skull. That could kill somebody. Like, a move like that should be illegal, but it's not like the fanciest move, and it's not like this big, like, high spot type of move. It's just a simple, devastating looking strike. So I think a lot of people don't think of it as being finisher capable, but in the world of like keeping things realistic, actually, yeah, spinning back elbow could take your head off if if you do it hard enough. And so it's gonna take some time for that to grow on me as a finish. They'll have to like find a way to work it better, I think. But I don't have a problem with the spinning back elbow being a finish. I think Jericho's just gotta make it look really devastating, and the guys taking it have to really sell it to make it work. This time, maybe didn't get over as well as I think they were hoping it would, but overall, didn't hurt the match that much. I thought overall it was a very good match. But the real story came after the match. It's like, all right, so we've got Jericho versus Hangman Page to look forward to for the AEW World Championship. More on that in a bit. But then while he was celebrating, the last big surprise of the night came down as Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose, came down and made his debut with AEW, attacked Chris Jericho, and then attacked Kenny Omega as they brawled through the crowd all over the arena and then onto the set, which ended with Jon Moxley throwing Kenny Omega off of part of the stage. So, right out of the gate. It's like, all right, that's their Lex Luger moment. That's their big thing. They got Dean Ambrose. They got Jon Moxley. And it felt like a big deal. And he went after both the heel and the face, which is even more interesting. It's like, all right, so he's going to get to play the psychopath that he's always wanted to play. And I think there's a lot of room to kind of let him cut loose creatively and let him be the character that I think he's always wanted it to be and what he's always had on his mind. And how he envisioned himself, and not the kind of PG version that WWE presented him as. And so looking forward, coming out of the show, which was a great show, great tripled main event, solid action all throughout, a lot of surprises, a lot of excitement, a lot of guys making names for themselves and kind of leaving an impression on me. It's like, all right, I want to see more of that guy, I want to see more of that guy, I want to see more of that guy. MJF, I want to see him yesterday. I want to see him like all day, every day. He's great. And then you got like that really emotional Rhodes Brothers match that, again, made me cry. A lot of good stuff for AEW. And then you look ahead to the future. It's like, all right, we've got Jericho versus Hangman Page for the AEW World title, which honestly, I don't know who's going to win that. The smart money's on Jericho because he's the bigger star, but do they want to put a lot of emphasis on Hangman and make him like a Bret Hart style champion where he's like this kind of the professional guy and the technically sound, hardworking up and comer that achieved main event status against all odds. Is that what they want to do with him? That'd be interesting. I can see them doing that. Smart money's on Jericho, but I could see Hangman winning it too, just for a just as like a kind of a surprise and a shock, and as an attempt to build him into being a new star. So that could be interesting. We've got Rhodes Brothers versus Young Bucks to look forward to. We've got MJF feuding with Hangman, and maybe he'll cost Hangman the title. Who knows? Might have Jimmy Havoc versus MJF because all those guys came out and went after MJF for running his mouth and going after Bret. Which, by the way, thankfully nobody jumped out of the crowd and attacked Bret Hart this time. Good to see. And we also have, coming out of this, Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley. When are we going to get that match? Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So they have set up things for the future to get me excited about what they're going to do with the next show, and the show after that, and the show after that, and the show after that. It's not this self-contained, kind of like what All In was, where it was kind of the self-contained, all right, we put on a great show, guys. Isn't that awesome? This was like, okay, I want to see what happens next. And that's the type of impression that you want to leave, especially for a first show. And I thought Double or Nothing was great. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. There's room to grow, but I think for the first night out, I thought it was a very exciting experience with the right level of action and drama and emotion and surprises and everything else. And it's one of those shows that reminds me why I love professional wrestling. It was just an exciting and fun experience from start to finish, and I loved it, and good luck topping that, because that was a hell of a show. So those are my thoughts on Double or Nothing. I loved it, and if you have not seen it, I highly recommend checking it out, if for nothing else, for Jon Moxley's debut and the Rhodes Brothers match. You have to see that match. It is unbelievable. So with that, I'm out. Thank you again to AEW for delivering on a really solid show, and here's to many more. That's all I have for you now. Everybody enjoy your Memorial Day, and I will see you all later.